What an honor it is to greet you, the future leaders of Sri Lanka, South Asia, and indeed the world, and to share some brief remarks on the same platform with Professor Yupi Disanaka, who is the Vice Chancellor of the University of Peradeniya, and of course my longtime friend, Mr. Siobhan Daniel, Executive Director of the Capital Maharaja Group. What a privilege it is to be with you today. Chev asked me to share some thoughts, and I'll do that in just a moment. And I'd like to begin with the words of an American educator and religious leader, Boyd K. Packer. He said, "What you are is more important than what you do. And what you do, if it is guided, will make you what you are and what you can be." So let me share some thoughts on that and talk a little bit about my own experience and others in the world of servant leadership. I have a map here that I'd like to begin with of your wonderful nation. I had a chance to visit Sri Lanka about a decade ago with Chev, and I hope to come back very soon. I come from a very different land than your beautiful beaches and the wonderful coffee plantations. I come from the desert sea of Arizona in the Southwest part of the United States. This is some of the dramatic landscape that you would see if you went to northern Arizona by the Grand Canyon. This is actually called Monument Valley. And I'd like to ask a question of you. What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail? I come from Arizona State University, which is the largest public university in the United States. And for many years, I was the curator and director of Cronkite Global Initiatives. The school that I taught at and researched at for over 20 years was named after this man, a famous television anchorman in the United States and indeed the world, Walter Cronkite, who loved the ocean, loved the sea, and would have loved these beautiful beaches and, of course, the many ships around Sri Lanka. Here's a quote about ships. We're going to talk a lot about ships as we think about the deserts and ships. "A man without purpose is like a ship without a rudder, never likely to reach a home port." This is a painting of a harbor in one of your towns along the beautiful beaches and sea towns of Sri Lanka. It's fishing boats. And there's a quote that's important as we look at this picture, which says, "A ship in a harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for." So I want you to think for the next couple of minutes of your future career and think of it as a great voyage. And of course, you're going to have a vision, a mission, and some values, like a map and like a compass to guide you. There's Walter Cronkite up there. He used to love being at the helm of the ship. But I want you to think about, what does it take to build your own ship, build your future ship? This is an artist's drawing, and if you look closely, you see it's a violin, and the sails are sheets of music. So think all kinds of ships when you think about leadership. Here's a picture of me on the beach of Colombo, Sri Lanka. This was taken by Chev many years ago. And I'm going to talk to you now just for a minute about the difference between leadership and management. Management comes from an old Italian and French word that means the training and the riding of horses. We know a lot about horses here in the West. And that's what we have, cowboys who do that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how you learn the ropes of leadership, whether you're lassoing to try to capture a cow out on the prairies of the West, or whether you're tying knots there at the harbors in Sri Lanka. Think about laying the foundation of leadership. What does it take to build that foundation? It's really some small and simple things. If we were going to construct a ship, like you see in the bottom of this picture, this ship being constructed, we'd have to find some ore or gain material knowledge. We'd have to have fire, energy. It could be our inner energy or divine energy to inspire us with this idea. We have to have billows when we're creating tools out of the ore. And billows are like the patient application that takes hard work. And then the tools themselves are how we construct the ship, how we forge the plans, how we make it a part of action. It's really small and simple things that lead to a great work. What is servant leadership? Let's talk about that for just a minute. It was a word that was coined by a man named Robert Greenleaf, who used to work for an American telephone and telegraph company, a phone company, the predecessor. In fact, AT&T still sells me my phone here in the United States and probably around the world. He said the servant leader is a servant first. It begins with a natural feeling that one wants to serve first, and then a conscious choice, and it brings you to inspire and aspire to lead. So, servant leadership is leading by example, encouraging collaboration, and caring for your team on a personal basis. What are some examples globally around the world? You can find many in your country. You can find many in South Asia. Here in the United States, we looked at servant leader examples of like Dr. Martin Luther King, or the famous mathematician and world-renowned scientist Albert Einstein. And some of you are also familiar with Mother Teresa, who said, not all of us can do great things, but we can do small things with great love. Mother Teresa echoing back that divine idea of small things can lead to greatness. And I'm now going to have to move the slides because at this point I get stuck. So we'll come up here. So I hope they can make an edit right there. Next, let's ask the question, how does one stay true to the difficult journey of leadership? How does one handle some very human emotions that come up when you're leading? Envy, anger, frustration, and not capsize or get the ship all stuck. Well, we can learn some examples from one of the greatest explorers who was on a ship called the Endurance. He came from the United Kingdom, from England. He went down to Antarctica, Sir Ernest Shackleton. I'm not going to bore you with his story, and it's not boring. We don't have time, but he was able to save all of the members of his crew and diverted his mission. But his mission changed because it was loyal to his crew. He said, be tolerant. Know each employee's strengths and weakness and set reasonable expectations, occasionally indulging individuals, putting up with them a little bit, even if you think they're being too needy. That can have a powerful effect, especially in high stress situations. Here's my favorite quote from Shackleton. He said, I've often marveled at the thin line which separates success from failure. You will fail many times. I hope you do in your career, for the fires of failure produce the power and the energy to be like a phoenix rising to something new. One other quote from Jay Stringer. What do we need in this leadership voyage? We need allies, guides, sages in our quest. We need people who are empathetic witnesses to our mission and hold the same vision that we do of what we want to achieve. So back to this idea of the desert sea again. I'm here in Arizona. You're there in the beautiful seaside land of Sri Lanka. But up in the northern part of my state, there are these majestic mountains. They look like monuments. They are solid rocks that have been forged through time by nature. But some monuments actually move. And those are the living monuments. People like I gave you examples of, living monuments there in your own life, living monuments that you have learned about during this leadership course. One of those monuments is a man named Hubert H. Humphrey, part of a fellowship program. And he said, a leader is one who summons the best from others as he calls upon the best within himself to join in the common cause and the common purpose. And he said, the greatest gift of life is friendship. I have received it. There's a snapshot down below of one of my dear friends, Chev Daniel, and another one of our friends, Javid Afridi. Chev someday may have a chance to tell you that story of that picture. So we close where we began. Back to the beautiful harbor there in your land of Sri Lanka with this idea, with this challenge. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did. Hoist off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover, and serve. Look out to the horizon. There's something beautiful out there waiting for you. I know you can do it. Congratulations for this wonderful achievement you have done in earning this wonderful award by taking this leadership course. So in conclusion, what an honor it is to be with you, to greet you, the future leaders of your beautiful island land of Sri Lanka, and you're going to also have an impact throughout the world. Congratulations.
Dr. William Silcock, Emeritus Faculty at the Arizona State University, former Assistant Dean for Research and International Programs and Curator of the Hubert H. Fellowship at ASU. He is also the director of Cronkite Global Initiatives at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. Dr. Bill, as he is fondly known to everyone, is an author, a gifted teacher, a one-time TV news anchor, and an academic leader with a passion for international broadcast news. Dr. Bill has shepherded the Hubert Humphrey Fellowship at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism in Phoenix, Arizona for over a decade, where he has molded the careers of hundreds of Fulbright program journalists from around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Bill Silcock.